So for the theoretical production of Little Women, what we were really excited about focusing on was Jo March's journey throughout the play and sort of seeing the world through her eyes. You know, we see through the stories that she tells that she is really excited by this sort of adventurous, epic sort of gothic romance. And we really wanted to see how we could apply that to the show as a whole. And so in looking at what we wanted to do with the costumes for the play, we decided that we wanted to utilize aspects of the initial period that it was set in, the 1860s, but we also wanted to abstract it a bit, heighten the sense of drama, and not necessarily try to recreate those costumes, but rather evoke them using some different garments. And so when I began to do sort of research into that, I was drawn, to the silhouettes of the period, but also the silhouettes of the 1950s, since we see, very similar historical things happening in both periods that relate to the play. We see a lot of emphasis on women's roles, and particularly women's roles in regards to the family and what that means, and this tension between, individuality and family, which is something that we see a lot with Jo throughout the show. And there's also in the 50s, the end of the war, in the 1860s, the American Civil War is still going on. We also see sort of this industrialization, the rise of the middle class. So a lot of the same things are happening in both periods, which made me really excited to see how I could sort of blend the silhouettes. And you see a lot of similar silhouettes in both periods for costumes as well. The hoop skirt of the 1860s, and then sort of the similar crinoline in the 50s. So in starting to design the costumes, I sort of drew from both periods, drew also from some more modern fashion lines like Dior that sort of explore femininity and what that means, and the different ways that women can explore that. So I was really excited in this design and looking at how I could blend these periods together and create a sort of different world for Little Women than the one that audiences may be used to seeing. So alongside the theoretical production, we are having 4 items built by our shop. Dawnette and Eileen, our first-year costume technicians, are draping them. So we are building Jo and Meg's ball gowns for the ball scene, and then also Aunt March's look and Amy's look when she comes back from Paris and is very high fashion. We're getting the fabric from some stores in New York, Mood Fabrics and B&J. And what I'm really excited about with these builds is we're seeing, 2 different sort of styles of the design come through. So for Jo and Meg's ball gown, we're seeing a more formal look for them that is based more in period research, since it is one of the more formal events of the show. So those costumes are way closer to period, especially in the bodices, than most of the other things in the theoretical design. And then Amy and Aunt March, who are more of our fashion characters, are drawn definitely more from fashion. Amy from sort of 1950s couture, and Aunt March from actually some more recent Dior fashion lines. So we're really excited to see those builds alongside the theoretical production. So for the virtual production, we were really interested in creating something that still referenced the ideas of sort of the individual versus the family, but knew that we couldn't do exactly the theoretical production just due to constraints. We couldn't have, things that looked sort of period, and we were mainly drawing from actors' closets. So we knew that it needed to be something more modern, and something that we could easily achieve based out of what we were pulling from. And so in thinking about that, I decided that the look that we wanted to sort of go for everybody, so that we were still, seeing the world through Jo's eyes, was this filter of dark academia, which is all about, the love of books, of knowledge, of this sort of self-discovery that we see Jo in particular go on throughout the show. And so we strove to sort of create that in all of the different characters' looks, with a lot of sweaters, cardigans, shawls, and that sort of thing, as a way to keep the spirit of the theoretical production alive, but in a new and sort of modern way.